We will call our January 13th Planning Commission meeting to order.
Good evening, Commissioners. I will call the roll. Mariah Bishop.
Here.
Ralph Carson.
Here.
Philip Jefferson.
Here.
Sheehan Hodges.
Here.
Sherry Phillips.
Here.
Michael Voiland.
Here.
That's 6 members present.
Thank you. We have a new commission member that we need to swear in this evening. So I will ask Mr. Mills if you will join Mayor Gupton at the podium.
You'll step right up here.
Okay.
Well, first of all, Ben, we're very glad to have you on the commission here. We greatly appreciate your service, your willingness to serve, and the willingness to listen fairly to all of these people who all have different opinions and help them make good decisions.
Thank you.
With that, we'll administer this oath of office. I'll just read a phrase at a time, and you repeat after me if you would. If you would, raise your right hand. I, Ben Mills, do solemnly swear and affirm
I, Ben Mills, do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of my office as a member of the Town of Garner Planning Commission.
of my office and as a member of the Town of Garner Planning Commission.
Thank you, sir, and congratulations on joining our Planning Commission.
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you, Mayor Gupton. Welcome, Ben Mills.
Thank you.
Joining our planning commission for this current year. Glad to have you. Welcome. And please do not hesitate at any time if you have any questions about anything to let us know during our process. It is now time for our invocation. Ms. Phillips, would you like to share an invocation for us?
Most gracious God, our Father. Most gracious God, our Father. First and foremost, we'd like to say thank you for allowing us to see another year. Thank you, God, for the town of Garner and its citizens. Please, God, guide our hearts and thoughts as we gather to make decisions regarding this great town. Lead and guide us as we make the decisions. This is our prayer. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. It is time to adopt our agenda. Are there any items on our agenda that need to be revised or adjusted? If not, do we have a motion to approve our adoption of our agenda as written?
I'll make that motion that we adopt the agenda as written.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Phillips, thank you so much.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to adopt the agenda. I'll call the vote. Mariah Bishop.
Aye.
Ralph Carson.
Aye.
Philip Jefferson.
Aye.
Sheehan Hodges.
Aye.
Ben Mills.
Aye.
Sherry Phillips.
Aye.
Michael Voiland.
Aye.
The agenda is adopted.
Thank you. We have adopted our agenda. So we will now go into our old and new business. Our first case to review is
Wait,
CZ.
By the minutes.
Oh, whoa, the minutes. Apparently I'm ready to get this meeting started. It is time to review our meeting minutes. Are there any items from our meeting minutes from our December 9th meeting that need to be revised, adjusted, or amended? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve our meeting minutes?
I'll make the motion to adopt the minutes from December 9th.
Thank you, Mr. Carson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. We have a motion and a second.
There's a motion on the floor to adopt the minutes. I'll call the vote. Mariah Bishop.
Aye.
Ralph Carson.
All right,
Philip Jefferson.
Aye.
Sheehan Hodges.
Aye.
Mr. Mills, would you like to vote on the minutes?
Abstain.
Okay. Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
And Michael Voiland.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes. The minutes are adopted.
Thank you so much, Mr. Walterstorff. We have now approved our meeting minutes. Now we can go into all the new business. I will turn this over. CZ 24004, Jurgen Park. This is a Tier 1 conditional district rezoning request.
All right, good evening, Planning Commission. Today I will be presenting case CZ 24004. It is the Tier 1 rezoning for Jurgen Park. This is a Tier 1 conditional rezoning request submitted by McAdams on behalf of the town of Garner to rezone approximately 72 acres from R4 and rural agricultural to commercial mixed use conditional. The site is located along East Garner Road. I do want to remind you that this is a Tier 1 rezoning request, so although you have probably seen plans for the park, the master plan, the site plan is not included in this rezoning. It was previously approved and adopted. For context, the current zoning is RA and R4, rural agricultural residential 4. RA is agricultural and low density residential in nature. R4 is suburban with a moderate density residential element. Currently, the site is vacant. It is home to the historic Jurgen homestead and the Dupree house. There's also an existing pecan or pecan, if your choice, in pronunciation, grove on the site. It is on the north side of East Garner Road between the village at Garner Station, previously approved through rezoning, and the existing avenues at White Oak. The site also falls within the CHO Commercial Highway Overlay District. The site does fall within 2 activity centers. Majority of the site lies within the Community Activity Center that's centered on East Garner Road as you're heading towards downtown, that brown circle, as you can see on the screen. The northern portion of the site is within the edge of the Regional Employment Center on Jones Sausage Road, kind of centered among the Amazon and other industrial sites. This park does gravitate primarily towards the Community Activity Center, closer to town, and aims to serve as a amenity adjacent to residential properties. Additionally, that yellow circle is a neighborhood activity center centered right on the heart of Main Street. Mr. Boylan.
Excuse me, Thomas. Are we supposed to be seeing this on our screen?
You should.
You don't?
No.
Are any of you seeing it on your screen?
I see it here. Maybe,
Okay. We do have IT here if it's something about your screen. I'll pause for a moment.
Okay, we are good.
You all set?
Yes.
All right. I don't want you to have to turn and look at that screen anyway. So there are 3 conditions in the rezoning request here. The first is our permitted use table. The applicant is proposing 17 permitted uses out of 62 allowable in CMX zoning. You'll see kind of a majority of them are low intensity uses. I'll let you see those 17 for yourself. They're also in your staff report there. There are 2 specific written conditions for the rezoning. I'll read them verbatim. Number 2, lighting for outdoor athletic and recreational uses shall not exceed 90 feet in mounting height. This includes base or mounting structure, and shall be extinguished no later than 11 p.m. on regular operating days and no later than 12 midnight on special tournament days. and that does address specific UDO language regarding lighting, which is why the applicant is requesting CMX zoning. And number 3, an emergency use only exit will connect with the stub at Eagle Rare Lane, but would be gated for emergency vehicle access only. So that's where the conditions end. We want to mention, of course, for Tier 1 rezoning, typically only the comprehensive plan is used for analysis, as there's no site-specific master plans included with these requests. The majority of the site will remain open space that's developed in a park-like typology. The commercial element is designed to be secondary. You can see there in the land character type, green open space. Without the master plan, it is difficult to evaluate some metrics in our analysis, but there are site layouts you have seen that can show possible design of the site. For the neighborhood meeting, there were 270 properties within the notification radius. It was held this past June 26th at the Garner Recreation Center, and we had 6 people in attendance. You do have the full neighborhood meeting packet in your staff report. We were able to evaluate 15 growth framework criteria. Of those, 12 were strongly consistent with our comprehensive plan. We did have 1 that was modestly inconsistent and 2 strongly inconsistent. The 2 strongly inconsistent, the CMX zoning choice was 1, and it is due to that zoning not being consistent with the open space typology. However, consideration is given because it's only a small portion that's going to be used for those flexible commercial spaces, but the whole site, rather than having a zoning line down the middle, is going to be zoned CMX. And then the neighborhood commercial building type also received a strong non-support. Overall, we found consistency with the open space features of the development intensity metrics. We do recognize that zoning a park as CMX seems counterintuitive. However, the narrow uses proffered allow flexibility for economic development for the site. There are deed restrictions on that, and I think Parks and Rec will explain some of that in their presentation. We do believe the park will be a destination to serve those nearby and throughout the area. We held our public hearing for this rezoning on December 3rd. 1 council member did ask about the size, scale, and design of the stormwater control measures regarding the phasing of the park build-out. Those are, of course, unrelated to a Tier 1 rezoning. And there were no questions or comments from the public. We have a draft consistency statement in your staff report. You have 4 options today. You can find this consistent or inconsistent and either recommend approval or recommend denial. Through our staff analysis, we do believe the request is both consistent and you should recommend approval. We also have a draft motion to recommend approval in the staff report. So our next steps for us would be to determine your findings of plan consistency, make a recommendation to approve or deny to town council, and then the rezoning will appear before council for findings of reasonableness and their decision to approve or deny the rezoning. So that's the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions for staff at the moment?
No questions from commission, so.
Yep.
Oh, we have one. Yeah, Mr. Walden.
Regarding the neighborhood meeting and the questions asked, I've never seen it quite given to us this way, where you have some property owners who are at the meeting, I presume, raising the questions under their name, and then that's split. Could you just explain that to me a little bit?
An answer on that?
I'm trying to make sense of it, and I can't.
Sure. I'm going to have Lisa Rodriguez perhaps answer that question. She was part of the team that conducted that meeting.
Hi guys, I'm Lisa Rodriguez, Senior Engineering Project Manager, and I was one of the people conducting the meeting for the neighborhood meeting. Can you repeat the question?
Well, summary of discussion from the neighborhood meeting, June 26th. You have the property owner's name, and then you have several questions which are answered. And then you again have another sheet with different property owner's name and questions that were asked and answered, and it's split up by property owner, and I just don't understand that.
Oh, that must be just a miss of my view of it. We had basically it was like a group meeting. And just to keep it consistent, I thought I had to take down a name and a property address, but it was more like open conversation and a group meeting.
Okay, so they were all sharing the questions and they were all sharing the answers.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the applicant, our Parks and Rec department does have a presentation that they would like to present.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we are looking forward to hearing from Parks and Rec at this time. Thank you so much, Mr. Walters.
Sure.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Matt Beard. I am a relatively new staff member in the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department. I am the Parks and Greenways Planning Manager. So I will be assisting in the completion of this project as well as a number of other ongoing projects and ones that we haven't even imagined yet. Very excited to join the town. Happy to be here tonight. So we'll start out again with some of the basics of the case, and I'll try not to repeat everything that Thomas just went through in depth. But back in 2019, the town did purchase the 73.5 acre property. As was mentioned, there are two different zonings on the property as of today. That presents an issue with UDO compliance. From one standpoint, that there would be required buffers running through the middle of locations where we want to have athletic fields. Those are not good to have in the middle of a soccer field. So joining them in a single zoning district removes that requirement to have the buffer running between those two existing zoning districts. The rezoning request would be for commercial mixed use designation with a number of conditions. So the question is, why commercial mixed use? Really, the property carries with it a deed restriction that Thomas had mentioned. So essentially, it is required to be developed as a park, with the exception of the 5 acres surrounding the homestead, which would be designated or open to redevelopment or preservation development. That would be compatible with the adjacent land use of a park, as well as within the context of the downtown economic development. And if you want to get into the actual legal deed language, it's on the screen, but I'm not going to read that one verbatim. The second aspect that's important to consider was the future use of the homestead, and that was kind of mentioned on the last slide. We want to choose something that is compatible with the park and support the growth of downtown Garner. The third being the buffering. The CMX district does require a healthy buffer. So this is our opportunity to kind of lock ourselves into being a good neighbor to the residential development that's out there, as well as any future development that comes through. So you'll see this chart again, and this is all of the uses that would be allowed within that CMX conditional district. Again, these are land uses that would be considered compatible with the park use, that open us up to a number of commercial ventures. It could be capital development. It could be partnership development. I think that the historic homestead presents a very interesting opportunity and challenge for us going forward, and I'm excited to kind of get a little bit deeper into that. The second proposed condition was again to limit the height of the lighting around the sports fields. This is again an effort to remain in good standing with our neighbors and secure as part of the legal zoning documents that we will have our lighting turned off by 11 or 12 on special occasions. And then the third condition was to render the proposed stub at Eagle Rare Lane as an emergency use only exit that would have a gate on it, so you would not have the ability to use the neighborhood as a cut through to get in or out of the park. And I have the site plans up here for reference, but they have nothing to do with this Tier 1 rezoning. Again, Thomas already mentioned that, but just in case there were further questions about the development. But any question for Parks and Rec?
Other than you answered my question. Nothing we had received indicated phase 1, phase 2, but now I can see it compared to that which we have received. So
Yeah, I have that one up here as well. But yes, this shows the proposed phase lines.
And they will be timed differently.
Yes, yeah. So this right now, as we're going through, I mean, the rezoning deals with all 3 phases because it's the whole property. Right now, the only construction underway would be phase 1.
Okay.
And then we'll come in after that's complete and evaluate feasibility for phases 2 and 3.
I've got a couple of questions. First, Mr. Beard, welcome to Parks and Rec.
Thank you.
Hope you are getting settled in well. First question, this is just a rezoning Tier 1. Will this come back to the Planning Commission in any form in the future when they have further plans, or will that go directly to council once the rezoning is in place?
Unless the project, for some reason, would require a special use permit, no.
Okay.
And I don't believe that it would.
Okay. So I have a couple questions based on some responses to concerns. So a lot of the trees in there are more mature trees. They seem to be planting a lot of very small trees when they're going to replant the buffer. Is there a reason that they're going with such small caliper trees?
So I can try to answer that one. So I mean, one of the things is the planting of larger trees has a much lower survival rate. So if you're getting something that's kind of already been established, either in a root ball with ball and burlap, or really any technique, whether you're using a trowel to kind of come in and mechanically remove it from another site, that typically does a large amount of damage to the root ball. And then yes, you're putting in smaller plants, but you're only having to put them in once versus putting something in, seeing if it survives, and then coming back the next year and trying it again. It's just a higher rate of success when using something like a 2 or 3 inch caliper tree versus a larger one.
Okay. Next question. One of the questions was regarding connections for possible food trucks at tournaments. What connections are you looking at? 30 amp electric? Are you adding water connections for each food truck location, or what are they looking at there?
I'm not familiar with it, so I'm going to have Lisa Rodriguez come back up.
Okay.
Have, leave 2 electrical pedestals to designate for food truck locations, and then 1 water spigot. And then after research with food truck companies, they do say they're fully ready to go even without some connections. So we really just didn't choose an exact location on site that will concentrate food trucks, but we do have those connections if needed. So 2 electrical pedestals and 1 water spigot.
One thing I might suggest is you look at some additional spigots and some additional service connections. Most of them are self-sufficient, but they run off generators, which are noisy. And if
And tripping hazard.
it's easy to put the pedestals in so they can come in and plug in, and that's a selling feature for the food truck. They can come in and plug in. I do have a couple questions, again, not related to the rezoning per se. I'm concerned with the road width and the line of sight going across the front of this property with that little brick wall, going from White Oak Ridge Drive, where it's basically 3 lanes, you narrow down to 2, and then you have kind of that turn. You don't have a good line of sight. They got the park at Garner Station that's going to have an entrance just past there. With this redesign, is there any consideration at this time for widening that road, taking that curve out a little bit, lowering that hill, getting rid of those brick walls?
Yeah, we will get rid of the brick walls along their homestead. So we do have a decent amount of road frontage improvements. We go back about 26 feet, and that includes to widen the road for half of what's required along this frontage, because East Garner Road is a future 3-lane road, so that's 2 travel lanes and a median. The middle will be either a median or a turn-in lane. So yeah, we have that along with our 5-foot utility strip and then a 10-foot multi-use path. So yeah, we will see those frontage improvements, soften that curve and get rid of those retaining walls. And we're looking to salvage those bricks. We're waiting on cost for that. But yeah, we understand the history on those bricks.
And I know there's utilities along that roadway, but if they can look,
Six utilities,
yeah, if they
including
can
2
look
water lines.
when they're redesigning that, to maybe take some of that hill out of there as well. Again, just to straighten and smooth and level that out with the park at Garner Station just around that curve. I think that would be helpful. But that's all the questions I had, and thank you for taking that into consideration in your design.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carson. Mr. Boylan?
Yep. Stormwater control mechanism with educational signage. Is it signage is about stormwater control, or is it about signage about the park as a whole? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, we are referring to like providing signage for stormwater control, because we tend to see people see what they call ponds or pools, and why do we have that? Could we have put a different amenity? But really, we need that. You know, it's required due to the watershed we're in and the storage and treatment requirements we have in the watershed. So we plan to put like near our wetlands. Why do we have a wetland there? And
Exactly.
try to
yeah.
educate.
That's my point. A little broader view, not just this is the pond,
Yeah.
but we have lots
Not
of
a pool.
woodlands. We
Yeah.
have
No, we hope to put some educational signs.
we have a drainage basin. We have protected wetlands. We have all of this, and how it kind of fits together would be more useful, I think. So, good.
Yeah, and we'll definitely work with our engineering staff and develop what that would look like. And yeah.
Kind of just adding on to what Mr. Boylan said, it could be a really great way for us to incorporate some type of sculptural or art element as part of the park that begins to describe that. City Raleigh has done that at Crabtree Creek around Crabtree. Had some of the public art design that's been installed there to really show what that stormwater management and control is. It could be a really interesting way to use that signage in a kind of a public art way for Town of Garner and start to incorporate that into the town park.
Yeah, and in the wetlands, we hope, you know, Nightdale Station Park has 2 wetlands, and I noticed they put like a dragonfly in their wetlands. So yeah, we definitely hope that it's more beautification and not, oh man, we have to have this here, but really make stormwater beautiful and show the necessity of it.
Right, yeah, that would be really great. Ms. Phillips, you have any questions for Parks and Rec? Ms. Bishop?
Yeah, so I know here in the comments from the last meeting back in June, someone asked about the security cameras. Will there be security cameras in this park, in this area?
Yes, and yeah, there's concerns from the Avenue and White Oak residents. They have some security issues there. We plan to install security cameras in high-profile areas, and I also believe the police department, they put a tracker in front of each park, and I think that gets the license plate. So we'll have those security measures there. They won't see as far as the Avenue and White Oaks parking lot, but hopefully help deter some of crime or anything.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question, so I know the road, East Garner Road gets pretty busy. Is there any possibility of adding like a traffic light to help deter, like to help smooth traffic?
So we will have our turn lane. So we'll have a left turn lane, and then we'll also have our right turn lane. So that'll help not stop traffic for people to turn in and out of the park. I don't think it warrants a traffic signal based off the volume of traffic. We also, the rush hour for the park will be different than the rush hour for people going to work or from work, because the tournaments would be after those rush hours and then mainly on the weekends. So this project did do a traffic impact analysis, and we utilized what we considered the rush hour to be the weekend rush hour. So we're hoping that will help. We also have another capital project that follows this, and we are working with DOT to talk about safety measures. So we're hoping to see if there are concerns or anything that need to be addressed, and then we could follow with those additional safety improvements with the Jones Sausage Road Capital Project.
Thank you.
Mr. Mills, do you have any questions for?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. It looks like our handout here is a little bit different than what's on the screen. Is this what's on the screen a little bit more accurate?
Master plan.
Yes. Is this accurate?
Yeah, so the difference here is that this is the overall kind of master plan. This is a little bit more conceptual.
Okay.
Whereas this is the site plan that's currently being constructed.
Okay.
So this is a more refined vision of a smaller area versus this that's more of the kind of broad reaching conceptual development master plan type.
Okay. So it looks like you're treating the soccer fields SEM, is that correct?
We were originally going to treat the artificial turf fields with an SEM. There is a new Senate bill that now considers that permeable surface, and we got to reduce our SEM treatments.
Okay. Can we go back to the other slide? All right. The other question is, where are the, I know you mentioned them before, Thomas did, where are the pecan trees on the property? Are we trying to save them, or?
They're all around here.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so they're in phase 3. They're untouched by phase 1.
All right, I would encourage to use them as a, asset instead of, clear cutting that area. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Ms. Hodges, any questions?
No questions.
So if there are no other questions for Parks and Rec or for staff, then this is a time for questions or comments from public. Anyone that is in favor or against has an opportunity to share their feedback. Do we have anyone in the audience this evening that would like to speak towards it? Okay, I'd like to, we want to kind of keep our time limit reasonable. Please, your name and address for our record, please.
Sure, and this will be brief, and this may be the wrong venue for the questions, but Rex Whaley, 102 Pineway Street here in Garner, and several questions I have about the project. This isn't to speak against the project. I'm in favor of it, and I commend the town for buying this property and having the vision to put a park here. I have some questions about artificial versus real and concerns about injuries, and I understand that they get a lot hotter. But the main question I had tonight, and like I said, this may not be for this meeting, but when I see the drawings, I keep hearing discussions about tournaments. But so how will we accommodate the people that are there to watch the tournament? When I see the straw and I don't see, where will they be in this design?
We do have, I believe, 4 sets of bleachers, and we have a large gap between fields that we believe people would just bring out lawn chairs and just line the fields with them.
Okay. Yeah, because when I looked at that, I'm sure there's minimums that you have to meet between fields, which you got games going on because you got the teams out there and officials running up and down the side. So I couldn't see, and I thought, well, maybe there's more space than I see in these diagrams about if you got 4 fields and tournaments going on, there's going to be a lot of people trying to watch their kids or their teams or whatever. And I couldn't see how they would fit in.
Yeah, and then like we'll have like the 8 smaller fields, so those are good ones where you could fit in your lawn chairs, and then the 2 longer fields, the middle could serve as viewing space. We have this viewing terrace here as well, so this will have a few picnic tables and chairs to view.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for that question. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay. Seeing none, in order for us to have a discussion, do we have a motion from the Planning Commission?
I'll make the motion. Move that the Planning Commission accept the consistency statement drafted herein as our own written recommendation regarding the consistency of the request with the town's adopted land use plans and recommend approval of case CZ-24-004 to the town council.
Thank you, Mr. Carson. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. So are there any other discussion or questions that the commission needs to have with each other or with staff, or questions that we need to be addressed?
I will just say, it would be really nice to have enough like picnic tables and benches, because several of the parks that I have been to kind of lack that. So that would be nice in phase 1 to have.
We'll definitely take a look at that.
Okay, thank you. We'll add that to our notes. Okay, seeing no more questions or comments or discussion, then Mr. Walters, we have a time to.
There's a motion on the floor. I'll call the vote. Mariah Bishop,
Aye.
Ralph Carson,
All right.
Philip Jefferson,
Aye.
Sheehan Hodges,
Aye.
Ben Mills,
Aye.
Sherry Phillips,
Aye.
Michael Voiland.
Aye.
That's 7 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you so much. We have passed our motion for our conditional 1 rezoning. Thank you so much, Parks and Rec. We're thankful to have you here with us. It's been a while since you all have presented to us, so it's nice to have you all give us feedback on Town of Garner, our work. Next on our agenda, this is CZ 24003 Exchange at 401 Commercial. This is also a Tier 1 conditional district rezoning request. I'll turn it over to staff.
All right, good evening, commissioners. It's good to see you all. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right, I will present case CZ 24003, also known as 401 Exchange Commercial. This is a Tier 1 rezoning request. The applicant, Beth Blackman of Timmons Group, has submitted the request on behalf of the owners, Future Development LLC. Again, this is a Tier 1 conditional district rezoning to rezone approximately 8.32 acres from residential 4, R4, C11 PRD, conditional to commercial mixed use. The site is located at 7509 Fayetteville Road. The applicant has proffered use conditions and additional zoning conditions are proposed. Also, please note, as stated before, that this is a Tier 1 rezoning request, so it does not include a site-specific master plan. The current zoning is R4, R4C11 PRD conditional. In September of 2020, the R4 conditional district was approved for the exchange at 401 planned residential development. And currently this site, which is these two parcels here, is vacant. There is RA zoning to the north of the site, and to the south boundaries are the 401 exchange residential planned development. And Fayetteville Road, also US 401, it is a major north-south corridor through Garner and serves as a vital link for local and long-distance travel, connecting communities and key access areas. The site is located within our neighborhood community activity center. And then you also have just adjacent the community activity center as well. NC.DOT reports the last traffic count for this portion of Fayetteville Road as 34,690 annual average daily trips, and those numbers were taken in 2023. The applicant has narrowed the possible uses to 33 out of a potential 62. They have reduced that number since the public hearing, stemming from feedback from council members. There are 9 proffered conditions outside of the permitted uses table. I'll briefly go through them. The applicant is proffering an outdoor community gathering space of at least 1,000 square feet. And within that space, there shall be amenities such as 3 benches, a minimum of 500 square foot flower bed containing 50% pollinator-friendly plants. 55% of the primary building materials shall be brick, stone, or decorative scored concrete masonry units. All building suite entrances shall be covered by either awnings, colonnades, or canopies with a minimum of a 5x5 area. Or entrances shall be covered under walkways adjacent to the primary facade. There will be 2 pet waste stations evenly distributed throughout the interior sidewalks and or the gathering space will be provided. 75% of landscaping shall be native and adaptive species. All lawn areas shall utilize warm season grass only. The developer shall dedicate a transit easement measuring 15 feet by 20 feet along the property's Fayetteville Road frontage. And the exact location of the transit easement shall be determined upon by the town and developer during site plan review. Interior sidewalks will connect the gathering space and buildings, linking the public pedestrian sidewalks in the exchange at 401 subdivision. And additionally, the sidewalks will provide access to handicap accessible entrances. The property shall ensure the ongoing maintenance of all exterior areas, including but not limited to the gathering space, the pet waste station, sidewalks, parking lots, and landscaping. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting in March of 2024. There were 295 letters mailed and 5 attendees were present at the meeting. And you have the full meeting information attached to the staff report. And the maps highlighted on the screen show the mailing area as well as the land character type, retail centers, as well as the development intensity, which is a tier 3 area to enhance. On review of the consistency, there were 5 growth framework criteria that were evaluated. There were 4 strongly consistent and 1 modestly consistent. The modestly consistent rating was due to the transportation choices criterion. And without a site-specific plan, in the absence of that, it did not receive a full positive rating, but the applicant has committed to a transit easement to accommodate for future expansion of the transit routes. There were 14 criteria that were determined to be applicable for the land use and community character consistency. There were 3 that were strongly consistent, 7 modestly consistent, and 2 that were split, 2 strongly inconsistent. And overall, with these ratings, there's a strong level of consistency with the plan's growth framework. The staff does support an overall finding of consistency at this time. And you do have that full report of consistency attached for your review in the staff report. During the public hearing that was held on December 17th, there were a few questions raised by council members. There was a question regarding the envisioned building footprint and elevation of the buildings. There is a question inquiring why this request is a tier 1 and not a tier 2 rezoning request. And also a comment to further reduce the number of potential uses to be permitted, to give a better idea of what could potentially be developed at the site, which the applicant has reduced that number since the public hearing. Staff has drafted a consistency statement for your review and consideration. Won't go through all of it. On the screen, you have the options that indicate staff reviews and analysis, so consistent and recommend approval. Also prepared a draft motion to recommend approval for your consideration. You do have several other options if you choose to vote another way or make another recommendation based off of your review of this case. So the next steps would be to finish the proceedings this evening and to make a recommendation for council, and also for the case to return to council to consider reasonableness and render a decision of approval or denial. And this concludes my presentation, but I'll be on standby to answer any questions that you may have. The applicant is here to also answer any questions. They don't have a formal presentation, but I can pull up the map or just leave the image on the screen for them. But they are here and will address any comments and questions you may have.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Joseph. Are there any questions for staff at this time from commission? If not, does the commission like to hear from the applicant? Yes, that seems the case. Okay, well, applicant, come forward and please state your name, address, and your affiliation for our record. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Jefferson. My name is Neil Gosch. I'm an attorney with the Morningstar Law Group at 700 West Main Street in Durham, and I'm here on behalf of the owner and applicant for this project. We also have Beth Blackman with the Timmons Group, which has been providing design, planning, and engineering for the project. And Mr. Danny Copeland, he's a representative of the owner and applicant. He's here as well. As was mentioned, the exchange at 401 was approved as a planned residential development in September of 2020. And at that time, these particular parcels were identified as future non-residential, even though they were zoned residentially at that time. And that's why we're here now to finish the overall zoning by changing the zoning along 401 for these parcels to allow for commercial development. This will help make a more complete neighborhood consistent with the vision of Garner Forward Plan. Residential development is well underway at 401 at the 401 Exchange. Pulte has delivered several residential units, and there are many more to come. There also are apartments going up. We want to get our zoning in place now so that we can deliver on the vision we outlined for this project when we zoned it solely for residential. Our request is consistent not only with the comp plan, but also with the vision expressed when the site previously was rezoned. To be clear, we don't have any end user lined up for this commercial space, given the stage of development that we're in. I think that's pretty typical. We don't have commercial entitlements, so we're not able to go market the space for a commercial user. And there's obviously residential that is still getting built. We do want to maintain some flexibility here, but we recognize the importance of high quality development. And as was mentioned, we got some feedback from council about at the time we had 41 uses that were allowed. So we pared that down a bit. We've eliminated incompatible uses, but have maintained a list of a variety of non-residential uses for the site. And additionally, we have other commitments. We've committed to having an outdoor community gathering space with pedestrian and pet infrastructure, attractive plantings and flowers and native plant species. And even though there's already an enhanced requirement for aesthetics along the 401 overlay, we've increased the percentage of brick or masonry required to 55%, and also have required that our entrances to the building space can be like a covered entrance. In my opinion, I think the best part of the plan is the connectivity and attention to transit. We've committed to providing a handicap accessible sidewalk network, which will connect this site to the residential development at Exchange at 401 subdivision. And we have committed to providing an easement along 401 to accommodate future transit. This project brings new employment, potentially retail and services to town residents, as well as a mix of uses with non-residential components, near residential and potentially near transit. We did have our hearing in front of the council, and really the only feedback we got related to the mix of uses, as was mentioned. They asked that we try to pare this list down a bit to eliminate uses which are not realistic at this location and to give a better idea of what might actually end up there. So we've tried to do that, though, I think they seem to understand and we do desire some flexibility given the situation. I think this is a welcome change and also a welcome introduction for a non-residential tax base. And we look forward to your feedback tonight, and our team is available to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have questions for the applicant? Mr. Carson?
I'm almost on board, but I got two concerns.
Sure.
Your proposed uses. One of the ones you did not strike was convenience store with fuel sales. There are numerous gas stations in that immediate vicinity. Next door, across the street, a few thousand feet down. And then you also have possibly as a self-storage or mini-storage, which there's a huge one being built a block away. This is frontage along Fayetteville Road. And the applicant, the owner, would they consider paring that possible use down and striking convenience store with fuel sales and the self-storage mini storage?
It's something that we can look into. I have not had that discussion. We didn't get that feedback from the council, right? Obviously, this is, as you said, along 401. And I think, understandably, from the applicant's perspective, owner's perspective, the ability to have a gas station here seems to make sense given the volume of traffic along this road. However, just like I said, we actually kind of think that's probably not going to be the end use, simply because this site, the access is going to be limited. You can't access these parcels, these commercial parcels from 401. And as you said, there's already some gas stations in the area. So it doesn't seem terribly attractive for fuel sales. But, to the extent someone would want to come around and do that, we did want to maintain that flexibility. As far as self-storage goes, I again, can have that discussion with my client. Couldn't answer that right now, but happy to go ask Mr. Copeland his thoughts on that.
If at an appropriate time, if you would ask
Sure.
that question. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Voiland?
Other than I like the emphasis you put on, as much as possible, making the crosswalks and the place a gathering place, a smaller, spatial gathering place. I recently sent my colleagues on the board here and to members of the planning staff a whole notion of how, due to COVID and other reasons, we seem to be becoming a nation of people who are very lone. So anything that can be done to increase gathering spaces on a small scale for people just to interact, to talk, I would try and emphasize. That's my only comment.
Understood. Thank you.
Ms. Phillips, any comments or feedback? Ms. Bishop?
Yes, you mentioned that the site would connect to the residential areas. And I see like a small gap on the map. So is it connecting via sidewalk or is it connecting like with the path?
So the 401 Exchange subdivision, actually, I guess that little gap is not part of it, but it does kind of loop around the back. So there is, I think, the ability to have connectivity through there. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, and there's a public road.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way to connect the two with like a sidewalk or like, where people are able to walk from one to another instead of just by car?
Okay. Beth Blackman, Simmons Group, 5410 Trinity Road, Suite 102, Raleigh. So the backside of the red outline parcel, so the right side of the map, that actually is a public road running north-south. It stubs to the property to the south, and then it turns kind of into the subdivision. Then the gap in between the two red parcels is also a public road. So there will be a four-way intersection at the back of those two red parcels. So we wouldn't want a crosswalk, and and town would not want a crosswalk kind of like in the middle of those two parcels from a safety perspective. But there would be sidewalk on both sides of those roads, so somebody could walk then to the four-way intersection and cross the street, or walk back towards 401. There's also a side path and a crosswalk there, and then cross the street. So there wouldn't be a mid-block crossing, but there would be one at 401 and one at the four-way intersection.
Okay.
Mr. Mills, if you'd like to have feedback?
Yeah, I got a couple comments. I actually live near 401 and 1010 intersection, so I had the same thoughts about the self-storage in the gas station as well. I don't think that would be appropriate use of space right there on 401. The other thing is, I guess you're offering up all lawn areas to be warm season grass only. Is that correct?
That is one of the commitments is about it. I mean, essentially using native species, native plants, and one of those is warm season grasses, yes.
Yeah. I wouldn't see that as I feel like fescue grass is better than warm season grass now, but I know you're going to use warm season grass only because it makes more sense for maintenance. So that was my other comment.
Thank you.
Ms. Hodges?
No questions, just definitely second Mr. Carson's thoughts on the gas station and storage. I feel like if that area is developing, and both with housing and mixed use spaces, and it'd be nice to see something that the community could actually use, and whether it's a restaurant or a healthcare facility, something that would give back to the community. If I'm counting correctly, there's 4 gas stations within maybe a quarter of a mile right there. And while I spend a lot of time in my car and appreciate accessibility to gas, that's probably enough options there in a storage unit. I don't see a purpose for that with the units going down the street, and probably could use that space for something better for the community. But other than that, no additional comments.
Understood.
I guess I will add my last comments. I also have to probably echo those comments about storage and fuel cells. Having a type of space that's kind of a convenience or small store, neighborhood store, since this is really a neighborhood center, activity center, and there are residential units, to try to find a way to make it, really a place where people can walk to, perhaps, to access things in that site for that neighborhood. I mean, really think about it as neighborhood centers, because that stretch of roadway doesn't, we're kind of slowly beginning to build those nodes up along 401. But I don't know that a kind of mini storage would necessarily provide a lot of activity for a space like that so adjacent to residential. So I probably would echo that and hope that you all would find some ways to perhaps really kind of incorporate those character principles of our comprehensive plan to kind of think about that neighborhood activity center really as, small scale shops, cafe, coffee, small bistro to get food, a little grocer. And as much as the access across a roadway in the intersections are important, I don't know how we find the best way to find that connectivity between the north and south site than at the intersection of 401 and at the intersection of the existing kind of four-way. So perhaps some ways of softening that movement north-south to really make it feel like it is walkable.
Do you mean maybe through like design change? Or?
I think that's a kind of a design component.
Okay.
I can't give you design decisions necessarily. I mean, I would love to, but I can't necessarily.
Well, the only reason I ask is because, we've heard from Beth, the mid-block crossing is most likely not going to be allowed here just from a safety reason. So, the actual place where you are supposed to cross would be most likely at that four-way intersection. But I'm wondering if you're talking kind of about like traffic calming, whether that's through, different material on the road or raised speed tables, something like that.
All those things are components of that.
Okay.
Making it not feel like it is a main roadway, but that it is a residential street in a way.
Sure.
Right? It makes it feel differently about crossing. I tried to cross one roadway once just to get to the grocery store, and that was probably a bad decision, but I had to. But just thinking about how the residences use that, really use our character, our principles of our typology to really think about what an activity center really looks like at that scale, to really be a benefit to the neighbors. And, a draw for those coming down 401, that this is that unique moment, not that it's another mini storage building along the street and another kind of fuel sales, but that unique activity center that I think 401 really needs to kind of align with our character guidelines that we're trying to establish would be really helpful.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback.
Any other?
Just one question. I was just pulling up the scale here on Google Maps, but that roadway between the two parcels looks like it's 400 or so feet long. They might want to consider some kind of midpoint. That's a long ways for somebody to walk all the way out or all the way back. Just in your design, I'm not saying it has to be done. It's just that's quite a walk.
Yeah, I mean, that is something we can work with the town of Garner, because that street would be town of Garner Street. It's being built with the subdivision. And so DOT's not gonna allow us to have any entrance driveways on the 401. So entrance driveways for these two parcels will be on the interior subdivision streets. And so when the plan is actually submitted, maybe that's something we can work out with town planning and engineering. The road will already be built, right? So it would be like come in and add something additional at that time later. So town of Garner would have control over the road. So we can definitely work with them on what could go in a mid-block situation. I just know when you're coming off of 401, you've turned right into the subdivision, suddenly, oops, somebody's walking across the road like too quickly. So you want to make sure there's plenty of visibility for that.
Yeah. I'd like to give you the opportunity to perhaps talk with your client before. Sure. It's going to depend on how I vote. So,
any questions for staff at the moment or for the site from Ms. Joseph specifically?
Mr. Carson, having spoken with my client, so he's not in a position tonight to make the change, has heard the feedback loud and clear. Neighborhood, kind of a neighborhood scale, neighborhood commercial, neighborhood retail is certainly their focus. But given where they're at in the process right now, he's not able to just eliminate those uses from the list. We're going to have some more conversations internally about that, or he's going to actually. And additionally, without having an end user, it's just kind of hard to pin down what it's going to be. So we won't be able to make those changes tonight, but we have heard that feedback, and it's something that we'll continue to consider.
I would make a motion or suggest a motion to table this to another meeting and give the applicant time to investigate that as an option. Because there's again, we're talking striking convenience store with fuel sales and a self-storage, which there's significant of both in that immediate vicinity. And if that determination cannot be made this evening, I would suggest tabling it. Or if we want to move forward, I'm not going to be supporting it.
So, so this is where that time, if there are no other questions for the applicant, then for us to have some additional discussion as commission, we need a motion in what direction so the commission can decide which way or the other. So I'm assuming that Mr. Carson, are you recommending a motion?
I'm making a motion to table it until a future meeting.
Okay. That's something we.
No, my only advice is to continue it to a date certain so that we don't kick in notification requirements. So
February meeting, the next meeting. If that gives them enough time to discuss that.
Oh, one other thing. Have we asked for any public comment? Was a question.
Oh, you're right. What's wrong with me today? Mr. Carson, hold that thought. Take that back. We'll pull that motion back. Is there any public comment in favor or against the application to review? Okay, seeing none. Now, is there a motion on the floor for the commission to review, Mr. Carson?
I make a motion to table it to the February meeting.
Okay, Mr. Walters, we have a motion to table to the.
Just point, February 10th, is that the meeting date?
Our next meeting is
Yeah.
the second Monday of February.
Okay, I think it's February 10th. Thank you. I think that would be suitable for us to have that discussion, or for my client to have that discussion, for what it's worth.
Then I second.
So, all right, we have a motion and a second to table our meeting, to table this application until our February meeting.
Yes, we have a motion on the floor to table the decision to the next meeting on February 10th. We have a motion and a second, and I'll call the vote. Mariah Bishop,
Aye.
Ralph Carson,
Aye.
Philip Jefferson,
Aye.
Jehan Hodges,
Aye.
Ben Mills,
Aye.
Sherry Phillips,
Aye.
Michael Voiland.
Nay.
That's 6 ayes, 1 nay. The motion to table for our February meeting passes.
Okay, thank you so much. We have passed our motion for the Tier 1 conditional district rezoning. Thank you so much for your applications, and we look forward to seeing you all in February. It is that time that we come to our reports from our planning director, Mr. Treasenberg.
Yes, good evening. Don't have a tremendously long update for you in terms of council actions in particular. They've only had one meeting since your last meeting in December. We thankfully get a little bit of a reprieve over the holidays, which I know staff is very appreciative of. But on their meeting of December 19th, the hazard mitigation plan, the multi-jurisdictional plan led by Wake County, was adopted by resolution, and that resolution was forwarded to Wake County. So we do have, to my knowledge, I haven't heard that we don't, have an approved hazard mitigation plan in place for Garner, so that we did not did not lose or have any time where we were not covered. So thank everybody for their participation and assistance in getting that through the approval process there at the end of the year. Additionally, there was a public hearing that day. That was for Exchange at 401 here, which came to you tonight. And that's really all of the planning related business that was conducted in December. However, in the intervening time, we as staff have hired 2 more employees. Cassidy Charles started last Monday, so she's now been with us a week. She is our planner 1 with the plan review team. So she joins Joe Linsky, who has been with us for almost 3 years. He's our planner 2 now. And Randy Hogue, who is our fairly new still planning technician. I think he's in his 3rd month. Then today, Nick Tefelsky started as our new development review manager. So Cassidy comes to us pretty much straight from school, having obtained her bachelor's at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in city and regional planning. And Nick comes to us most recently as a senior planner with the city of Winter Springs, Florida, having obtained some few years ago his bachelor's in planning from Michigan State and his master's in planning from Arizona State. So we're very excited to have them. I think a couple of them may be even listening in tonight on YouTube to the channel. But we're very much excited to be working with them. We have a full plan review team now. And so the next 6 months will be a good time of trying to grow as a team and continue the good work and make some improvements, particularly with our use of the new SmartGov online permitting system. So that's all I have for y'all, unless you have questions for me.
Mr. Foylan, do you have any, especially last meeting, you had questions about entrance ways to.
I don't know where that's at. I just wanted to make the point that turn is a little tough for the school buses, that's all.
Yeah.
A meeting or 2 ago, I misspoke. I mentioned that I thought that the amount of land for Bojangles was too small. Now that they've actually removed some vegetation, it's plenty big. So never mind. And it seems like while they're not being speedy about it, it's slowly moving along.
It is.
Good. Do we have any other updates from any of our committees or?
First of all, I'd like to welcome Cassidy and Nick on board if they're listening online. Welcome on board. Look forward to meeting you and being part of the team. I wanted to just express our thoughts and prayers for all the people of California, the wildfires, but I also don't want us to forget about the people of Western North Carolina. They seem to have been forgotten a little bit lately, and they're also in our thoughts and prayers, the people over in Tennessee as well. So I just wanted to mention that. The Affordable Housing Task Force met last Tuesday on January 7th, and we have finalized our recommendations. Now that's going for a final draft review, and then that'll come back for one last look, and then that is expected to be presented to council, I think, on January 28th. That's just tentative, if all the deadlines are met. So once we get the final draft, that'll be made public on tentatively that council meeting. So just wanted to give an update on that. And there may be a future wrap-up meeting. We don't know yet, but so potentially that was our last meeting. And then council will have that to review and discuss and decide what they want to do on that matter.
Okay, thank you so much for being representative of us there, very much so. Mr. Walden?
Jeff, has VA Clinic given any indication to the town on how and when they will open? Will there be a public dedication ceremony? Will there be anything of a formal nature to when it opens?
I believe there is. John would normally have that information.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to get that for you and forward it to you via email. But I believe
Jeff?
Oh, there. Hey, John.
Good evening, everyone. There is no dates have been determined for any type of opening or anything for the VA. They are working to get their all of their upfitting done. They are now in the process after significant progress with the building on getting all the upfitting done. And so we think it'll be sometime in the late spring, early summer before that's open, but there's been no discussion yet on what the format of that opening will be. We'll be sure to let everyone know once we know more details.
All right. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I knew I had heard some rumblings, but we're still preliminary.
Okay, well, if there is no other comments or questions or updates, then I will call our meeting adjourned.